Hey everyone, welcome to episode 9 of Heroic Nonsense. Thanks for joining me on this journey as we explore the self-anointed king of the Autobots, Grimlock, and specifically in his very 80s inspired G2 colors. Obviously, this review can mostly double for a review of the Studio Series 86 version of Grimlock, but I thought it'd be more fun to focus on this G2 version since 1, he is the latest version in this mold to be released, and 2, he has too much G2 goodness. Before we get into the review, let's have a little fun with Guess That Scene, where I ask you to guess which scene I'm basing these reproductions on. They can be anything from the G1 show, the comics, video games, or even cards. As we're doing a G2 special, I've used a G2 coloring, so don't let that throw you off. Leave your guesses in the comments section below. And for some extra fun, I've added a new part to the game for this episode. Guess which previous Heroic Nonsense episode had a similar non-G2 version of these two images. Now on to the review, first starting with the box art. When I first heard of this Toxitron subline of Legacy Evolution, I wasn't sure I was going to get anyone other than G2 a dead end, as I'm hoping they'll eventually make the entire G2 Dinosaur set. However, when I saw the box art for the entire line, I basically pre-ordered the whole set right then and there. This has to be one of my favorite pieces of Transformers art. The colors and the very stylized art come together to make for a really nice piece of work that would look great in any box display. The right side art has the most recent iteration of the latest Legacy line characters, and I like that if you put some of these boxes together, in this case the side art for Toxitron from the same subline, you can make the full image of the latest art piece, and of course Tarn's face. Back art is also pretty cool with that toxic 80s pink coming out of the black oil spots and a nice symbol of the subline. All in all, one of the best boxes I have seen recently from this line. To start off the review, let's take a look at G2 Grimlock Spot Mode. Like I said earlier, it's a straight repaint of Studio Series 86 Grimlock, which we'll look into a bit more detail later in the comparison part of this episode. But in my opinion, totally worth the purchase if you want some really funky 80s styled colors and a bit of history, since this does represent a figure that was never ultimately released in the original line. The colors are definitely out there, but look great in a display since they are so bright and unique. The yellow coloring is the main coloring throughout and mostly is used without much additional color detailing. However, that doesn't take away from the figure at all, since there are some sections of the body which use other colors, including some great metallic blue color on the chest, with a see-through yellow portion covering up some very nice details, including a hidden Autobot symbol if you look close enough. His metallic silver head and blue visor also look great on this spot. As for the side view, not much to see other than a bit of blue and the very nice stripes on the legs, which we'll look more at in the Dino mode. Same for the back view, though I have to say for those who don't have any version of this figure, he is fantastic. The closest, in my opinion, to a masterpiece type figure in this specific toy line, along with the recent Studio Series 86 Ultra Magnus, whose review you can see here, or by clicking the link below. If you don't have a Grimlock in this mold yet, I would for sure pick this one up if you can find him. Grimlock, and in this case the G2 version, is one of those figures that not only looks great in both modes, but also looks very accurate in his G1 cartoon version, which I personally like a lot. Again, he is mostly yellow, but does have some blue highlights on his dino arms and claws, and a bit in his middle portion. I love that they use clear yellow plastic here as well, so you can see some very mechanical detailing underneath, while also breaking up the standard yellow plastic. His head swivels in all directions and his jaw opens. And yes, while he doesn't per se look like a typical realistic T-Rex, he does look very much like his cartoon form, even if he looks a bit less menacing when he is in that position. He for some reason gives off Godzilla vibes to me, more so in this color than the original for some reason. Here's a bit of a better look at his tail section with the very nice metallic stripes. That is a really nice add. Overall, love this figure in Dino mode as well, and love that he can be posed in a more aggressive stance as well as his more G1 form. Let's do the step-by-step transformation. He's generally very straightforward for such a big bot, which is nice. I have a bit of a different way of transforming him, so let's get into it. First off, we'll start with his arms, which are on some nice tight ratchets by moving them up 90 degrees. Close up his fists next. If your version is like mine, his fists actually close very tight, and I had a lot of trouble getting one open again, so be careful here. You might ultimately not want to click them into place. Jumping all the way down to his legs, let's flip up the back of his feet like so, and then open up the back of his legs. Hint 1, leave in his tailpiece until right at the end. Next, we'll fold up his legs, which have to detach from the inner joint, and push them in until they feel snug in place. I used to have a bit of trouble with this one on my Studio series, but doing it this way is a lot easier. Just make sure you then straighten the folded legs so they line up with the back. Unhinge his chest plate and bring it down and push his head into the chest cavity. You can then bring down the dino head. Back to the legs. Make sure they're clicked into each other tightly. And we can now open up his tail pieces by pulling it slightly down, then back. Be careful here, as if you force it, the tail will pop off. We'll next close the legs back up and click into each other as well, along with the tail portion. You can now click the chest plate into the transformed legs, which fits in snugly. Hint number 2, move the shoulder plates up a bit first, then back into place. Do the same for both sides and then click them into each other. Last easy step, push in the head and neck portion and you're all done. Like I said, very straightforward. How can we not start this part of the episode off without a direct comparison to Studio Series 86 Grimlock? Like I said earlier, it's the exact same figure in all respects other than some different color applications and a few hidden gems. You can right off the bat see that the Autobot symbol is missing on the G2 version in Dino mode, though the shape is still there in case you ever want to apply your own sticker. Biggest standout change for me again is the see-through yellow neck on G2 Grimlock, which has some nice details underneath that you won't see on the Studio Series version. Otherwise, you can best see from the side view that they overall follow the same coloring patterns, though Studio Series Grimlock has a few more bits of color accents on the original version, while G2 has the stripes. Now, I'm sure this is a comparison some of you want to see how Grimlock looks next to his big brother, Masterpiece Grimlock. In the end, he isn't that much bigger in Dino mode, and you can even see some of the same design cues being taken from the Masterpiece version. You also have a bit nicer paint job and plastic for the gold feet, silvery arms and teeth, and silver plastic for his tail, but overall, very similar in look and style. You even have the see through neck on both these versions. As for bot mode, you definitely get more color accents on Masterpiece Grimlock's legs and waist, and some light piping on his gun and sword, which G2 doesn't come with, by the way. And of course, you have some parts on the Masterpiece version, which are metal with a very nice gold chest plate, but otherwise I think G2 Grimlock holds up nicely even in size. Quick jump back to the Studio Series Grimlock, and similar to the Masterpiece version, a bit more color details on the Studio Series lower legs, but that's about it. You get a hint of the G1 original version Grimlock with that display type accent on his chest as well, which hides a sculpted Autobot symbol beneath it. Speaking of G1 Grimlock, I finally get to pull out another one of my original G1 toys. Obviously a huge size difference, but the G1 original toy was actually quite a nice looking transformer back in the day and still holds up quite nicely, especially in bot mode. When I played with this one when I was younger, he always felt so big, but next to the modern version, he's almost half the size, or at least two-thirds. If you look closely, you can see what I was referring to on G2 Grimlock's chest. There's a similar sticker on G1 Grimlock, so it's nice they make that callback, which isn't on the Studio series. How can a Grimlock comparison be complete without having him next to the recent Core Class Grimlock that combines with the other Dinobots from this Core Class to form Volcanicus? I'll be honest, not the biggest fan of this Core Class version, but it is fun to have a smaller version that looks good with the Arc toy and can also combine. My kids definitely have fun with this one. While I do have most of the Toxitron collection, some of which are open as you'll see soon, and some that are waiting to be opened by my kids, I thought I'd start with Grimlock's next to one of the first G2 inspired figures recently released by Hasbro, Laser Optimus. While this version is not part of the Toxitron collection, it gives you a good idea of how the two look together. While G2 Laser Prime isn't a figure I'm in love with, as I'll always like the G1 the best, it's quite a nice figure and it's nice to have a few G2 Transformers to keep together in displays. Though I am excited about us opening up the Toxicron one, which I will review at that point. Throwing in Studio Series Wheelie, since Grimlock and Wheelie were so close in the movie, and has a bit of that complementary color scheme to G2 Grimlock. Size comparison wise, I think Grimlock lines up nicely with the other toys in the recent Transformers line. Just so you can get a bit of size and color comparison with the Toxitron toys we have opened, here he is next to G2 Dead End and Cloud Cover. Really do love all these decos together. And finally, all the G2 figures I currently have that are open. We also have in the mix Velocitron Dragstrip, who is also based off an original G2 version of the toy, and Generation selects War for Cybertron Ramjet in his G2 colors. We're here. The display and build idea is part of the episode, starting right off with a G2 action display. You can see how well Grimlock's arms hold up when holding in the air a smaller bot. Not only do the arms stay in place, but he doesn't tip over. Even more impressive is that I was able to have Grimlock in his T-Rex mode chomping into Ramjet's wing and not dropping him or tipping over. This was actually my favorite display idea in this episode. Let me know what yours was in the comments section. Here we have more of a fun scene of Laser Optimus Prime and G2 Grimlock chasing down the G2 Stunticons, followed by a nice image of Laser Optimus and Grimlock looking quite menacing, ready to hold off a battalion of Decepticons. I like this action shot I took simply because of the contrast and the nice gray tanker part of Laser Optimus off to the side. Here's Wheelie and Grimlock on their own without the Sharkticons from earlier. I have two different Wheelies, the Studio Series one here and the non-transforming version that came with Studio Series 86 Grimlock, and I always display them in my display case on top of Grimlock like this. Won't give away where the Blitzwing Grimlock scene comes from the game part of the episode, but thought I'd show a different scene here with Blitzwing in tank mode, and another shot of Blitzwing chasing Grimlock down. And to cap it all off, a few fun shots, first of Wheeljack and Wheelie wondering what happened to Grimlock's colors, followed by a confused Ratchet and two of the Dinobots playing off of the original scene I made, reproducing the scene where Ratchet introduced the Dinobots in the G1 cartoon. So that's it, guys. As we close out episode 9 and soon 2023, I still have one or two more episodes to share before year end, one of which will be quite a bit more unique compared to the Legacy line. It will definitely bring the thunder and make some waves. Now, how's that for a holiday hint? See you guys next episode, and remember, it's all such heroic nonsense in the end.
Bravo!